Good morning, friends. Welcome. Glad you're here. Welcome to Coffee Talk. Welcome to our hangout time where we just reconnect and connect with you and kind of recap what we just talked about last week. And it feels funny to re-talk about what we just talked about, but there is
We go deeper.
We go deeper.
Yeah.
There's a point to it, and so we kind of like, okay, let's chew on the fat a little bit and see what comes up. So Jeff, we've now started into this second week of the Sermon on the Mount. Kind of an exciting
A View from the Top.
Sermon
Yep.
on the Mount. And Jeff, you led us into I want to say Beatitudes because I was brought up in the church.
Yep.
That's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
But then the first time I heard it,
Uh-huh.
like I have no idea what that word means.
Why did
and
that
even
word get in
even
there?
still, like it's a
Yeah.
funny thing.
Yeah.
Why? What do you call it instead?
Well, I've talked about this passage before and explained the Beatitude. It's from the Latin, but I didn't want to take time to do that, so I just called them the blessings because that's what Jesus says. Blessed are you, blessed are you. So I was like, those are the blessings, right?
Yeah.
So that was just easier for me to.
Might I suggest the J attitudes?
The J attitudes.
The Jesus attitudes?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who this B person is.
No.
but
Because I always. I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
have to play my ignorant card here. In that,
Yeah.
like, I actually thought it was an English word that was like just squished together. Be attitude. Here's what you're gonna be,
Right.
and this is the attitude you're gonna have. So you just squish the two together.
That I like that too.
I don't like it. I
have
like,
this
I like
attitude
blessing.
and be blessed, but that doesn't really
Yeah,
follow
it doesn't
what you
really-
said.
that's right.
So-
I like blessing so much
Yeah.
better. It's so good.
Okay.
Okay, so
Good.
you led us into it, but you said, okay, it's not what you think.
Right.
It's a bit of a twist.
Yeah.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, first of all, those people sitting in front of Jesus were the poor and the meek and all the things that a lot of the things that he talked about. They were just trying to get by. So the twist is that he starts saying, "Blessed are," and they would automatically be thinking, "Oh, now that I'm healthy, right? Maybe now that he's healed me, now that maybe." But he goes right into where they are right now, and you're blessed. That's the twist. Is like the blessed people at that time, and even in common thought now is if you have a house, if you have a car, if you have a whatever, then you're blessed. Jesus flips that. He's like, if you are struggling, if you are, poor in spirit, you recognize, and then so the first twist is he's speaking right to these people where they are. Then once you realize he's not saying you have to be these things in order to be blessed, because the blessing is him. He's standing in front of you. Blessed are you, and what he's kind of beneath is, I'm right here. I'm standing in front of you. I'm your blessing. Then another layer is once you accept him, you actually realize you are some of those things. Like, we are all poor in spirit compared to him. I might have more than you or less than you, but that's not what matters, because we're so, the difference between us is this compared to the difference between, and so we're all poor in spirit before him. We have nothing to offer him that would benefit him aside from that he wants us. And so we realize we are poor in spirit. We are some of these things, and then he kind of moves into what you become as you are in the kingdom under the reign of the King, right? Under him, you become pure in spirit. He makes you pure in spirit. He makes you these things. But so it's actually, there's so much depth to them. But
could we just go back to something you said? Like, okay, so when you realize and then you accept him, right? And like, I think there's a hard part in all of this where some people will sometimes see this, or even see other things that Jesus says and say, okay, if I do this, then God will like me. Or if I do this, then, maybe even somebody might push it to the extent of saying, okay, then I'm saved. Right? And that's something I think we mix up and confuse quite often.
Yes. Yeah.
It's the transactional God mindset that we get stuck in, right? And I think that's exactly, I appreciate what you're touching on there, Kevin. We forget that God is the one who always goes first, right? While we were still sinners, Christ died for us, right? 1 John 4, right? You know, God doesn't love us because we first loved him. He loved us first.
Right.
And the only appropriate response is to reciprocate that. And I think with these blessings, these attitudes that he invites us into sharing is always a reminder that this is who Jesus is. Now how are we going to respond?
Yeah.
And what is our attitude in that going to be?
Yeah.
I often think, I shouldn't say often think, this has led me to think, I cannot deny I am a blessed individual. But what's the basis for that?
Yeah.
Is it because my kids are healthy?
Yeah.
Is it because I have a roof over us and we have a home that's provided for? Both Sheena and I have jobs that we enjoy and have certainly met all of our needs. If all of that was stripped away and we found ourselves in a Job-like situation, would we still see ourselves as blessed?
Yeah.
Because we have God with us.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, a question that's really hard for us who are wealthy to answer honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's partly why when we travel abroad and we find ourselves, whether it's in Mexico or parts of Asia or Africa, and we're sitting with people who are equally blessed, but that looks very different, right? Their lives look very different, and they have a joy, and we go, well, wait a minute, how come? Like, what is this? And I think they understand really what it means,
Much more.
right?
Yeah.
Really what it means to be blessed by God. And it is a gift that we need to better understand.
And maybe that's even part of the first question is like, how do we define that word blessed, and how does God define that word blessed?
Yeah.
And are those the same thing?
Well, I think that's been a huge challenge for me. It's just that exact thing.
Right.
Like, wow, when I say I'm blessed, I'm thinking of my house, I'm thinking of my wife, I'm thinking of my whatever. Am I? That's the flip for me. I think in our culture is, am I thinking of Jesus first? Like that's the blessing, and regardless of what else there is, I have Him.
Yeah.
And that is all the difference. Like that is the big blessing. And that's challenging to us in North America because we're not trained to think that way. And that's actually what he's doing. He's flipping everything that culture tells us on its head, right? And so good. I'm glad you said that. Sorry, I guess that sort of gets to your question.
Yeah, because I think that is part of the point is like how do we find that? Because even when somebody does say, like you said, Chris, I feel very blessed. Okay, in what way?
Yeah.
Physically, spiritually, socially, mentally, vocationally, right? All these things that we often fill that in with. And Jesus is saying, okay, when you follow me and you find yourself in this situation, you are blessed. Right, and I think that's where we do get some of our confusion from.
Oh yeah.
And not that we shouldn't be grateful to God for those things. They are all like, everything good in my life is from Him. I'm not denying that.
Yeah.
But it's like what
it's not
really,
the metric.
right?
It's not
That's
the
exactly
metric.
it. It isn't at all how I measure whether or not I'm blessed by God. It's first and foremost.
Sorry,
He
just
did something
American. It's not the imperial.
Good point.
I'm sorry.
Wonder if everybody
That
got
was a
that,
cheap
but
shot. I'm sorry.
No, that's good.
It might be coming back. But I think the next point then is when we think about all the other things Jesus touched on in that passage, right? My understanding of the value of meekness then is measured against, right? Where is my blessing coming from? What does my blessing look like?
Yeah.
What am I hungering for? How does that connect with the blessing, the true blessing that God has brought in my life? All of these other things then they tie back, but at first and foremost is when I understand that I'm blessed, what does that mean? What is the foundation and the basis of this? And then, then it rolls out.
And Jeff, you talked about it kind of in two parts. So like that first part is tell me if I got it right, that I was listening right. First part is our relationship with God. So we have given Him lordship of our lives. We follow Him. And then that first part kind of applies. And then the second part is then our relationship with others. Is that right, or is that different? Something different?
Well, so as I was studying it, what stood out to me was the first layer was make sure you don't get you said it before, don't get the cart before the horse. If you've ever thought about what would happen if you put the cart in front of the horse, like it wouldn't work, right? And a lot of people think I have to become poor in spirit to be blessed. I have to become meek to become blessed. I have to become all this stuff to become blessed. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, I'm speaking, he's speaking to these people and he's saying, you are blessed. Why are they blessed? Because I'm the king is standing before you, right? So that, accept that blessing, right? And then, but then the next level is to realize once we realize we don't have to do those things to become blessed, when we accept a blessing, we realize we actually are those things and becoming those things.
Right.
Like, I am poor in spirit, because I've accepted the blessing, and the blessing says that nothing else matters. I may have more than somebody else or less, but what I have is, so I realize I'm poor in spirit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So realize that what he's saying is this blessing is available to anybody, no matter how terrible their experience, their life circumstances are. That's kind of what he's saying. But then another layer is, I am those things and I'm becoming those things in relation to the King,
Right.
in this kingdom of that he's invited me into. That's the next level,
Yeah.
right? And it does relate to other people, right? Like hunger and thirst for righteousness. Righteousness actually is all about right relationship, right relating between us and God and us and people, right?
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of times we think of righteousness as doing all the right things, but really it's a relational. The racial, we miss the relational when we think that way. It's doing right by God. Okay, doing right by God is doing the right things before, but in relationship to Him. Doing right by people in relationship. So, yeah, I don't know. Does that make it more confusing again? Or?
It does, but I think that's a good thing because my mind wants to just say, well, it's a simple platitude. First half is this, second half is that.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
It has to do with that, who is God and who is standing there and how it, and then it moves to the second layer, right? Let's say layers, not part one, part two, but layer one, layer two, right?
Yeah, like an onion or whatever. Like there's so much depth and there's so much more that I I still have to keep. It's meditative. It's like he's so. The Bible is so meditative. Keep on reflecting, coming back to it. Oh, I missed that. So.
And what also stands out too is even in that earlier thing that we were talking about, where verse 10, verse 9, 10, where he's talking about blessed are you when you're persecuted because of me. You can't have that unless you have relationship with him, right? So it has to begin with a relationship, and this has to apply in a relationship term with him and also with others in that deeper layer, right? And it's good.
Yeah, that's funny. As I'm thinking about this, Psalm 23 keeps coming to mind.
Yeah.
Even if I walk through the darkest valley, you are with me. Like it's the you are with me, no matter what, right? And you prepare a table in the presence of my enemies, right? Like in the worst, scariest places. Like our enemy is now not flesh and blood. It's not other people. It's the dark powers. But he's going to have us in places where we're going to be up against trying, tempting things, right? And he's with us. That's the blessing.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So we got a ways to go on this because this is just the tipping
the
point.
Intro,
but, but it's actually kind of Jesus's point, right? Like he's saying, okay, here's where we're going to start.
Yeah.
Now that we've got that out of the way,
well,
and I've kind of blown your mind. This is all going to apply to everything that's going to come from here on in. So it does feel like this is going to keep pointing back into the rest of the sermon for the next couple of chapters.
For sure.
So hopefully you even are either pointing yourself back to it, kind of like keep that bookmark in your Bible, or maybe you're memorizing it. Maybe that would be a challenge for you for the next couple of months is memorizing the Beatitudes, the blessings, so that as we go through and we see and we hear different things like, you have heard it said, but I say this, that actually applies to a lot of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my challenge for us. But
It's a good
Good
challenge.
job.
and so, yeah, it's easy to say.
Next week, you're
Yeah.
gonna say it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. We want to be pointing ahead as we reflected back. Now we want to point ahead to some of the stuff coming up. You'll see if you're a part of our LHBC Life. It's an email that comes out every week that kind of keeps you informed. If you don't get that, let us know. We can get you onto that list so that you can hear some of these things coming up. But if you didn't get that, here's some of the things coming up. Jeff, what's happening on Saturday?
Saturday, Business Leaders Breakfast at 9 a.m. And that's just right in here in the fellowship room in the church. And if you are in business, you're a leader, you want to connect with others and just kind of talk about, hey, what does it look like to be a Christian in a business leader in business? We'd love to have you there. It's just kind of, we have one person who's going to present what they do and how their faith relates with that, and then we'll have discussion and a meal, and it's pretty good. About an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's this Saturday. And then coming up in a couple weeks, not next week, but the week after, we're going to have a Steve Jones Memorial Pickleball Tournament, the second annual. It's going to be great. We're going to pull all the chairs out, and we're going to just have a great pickleball night. And hopefully this isn't our only one throughout the year that we play, that we get to. We have a pickleball net, and we want to use it more often. So please sign up. Have friends and family sign up for that. It's going to be a great night, and it's just a lot of fun, and it's good to get under people's skin sometimes too when they get very competitive. And is that the way of Jesus? Maybe.
And come and watch too.
There'll be an intermission, right, where we talk about the Beatitudes.
Yeah.
You're like, "Blessed
So
are
were you living out that? Yeah.
But part of this is to even just honor our friend Steve Jones, who passed away last January, and just to honor him and his family. And that's February 4th. Chris, what's coming after that?
We have our first Friday of 2025, which is a kids event on Friday evening. Yeah, right?
Yay!
Yay, it's Friday! For great kids in grades 3 to 6. It'll be at the church here, mostly over there. And bring friends, come on out. And it'll be starts 6:30, runs till 8. And it'll just be a great evening of hanging out, playing some games, have a little devotional, and I'm working with some youth to plan it, and I think there will be a little bit of a carnival element to it. At least that's one of the things. One of them is pushing for. We'll see where that goes, but I think it'll be a real fun night of just coming together and just kind of having some fun together. So
That's good.
it'll be good.
So that's on February 7th.
Yep.
And then 2 days later, February 9th, we will gather together for morning worship. And then we are going to move into this room, have some soup, and then quickly move back to the other room and whip off an AGM. And it's going to be fantastic. And it's an enjoyable experience. Some people don't like AGMs, and we're saying, actually, I think you might. I think you'd enjoy this one because it's an opportunity for us to hear testimonies possibly, or even just to hear what God is doing, and to just be together and to work through our budget and say, here's what we're thinking, and to support each other and to communicate well. And so we encourage anybody and everybody to be there. So that is on February 9th, and so we're excited about that, and we will see you then. But until then, keep learning those and memorizing those Beatitudes, and we will see you Sunday.